Okay, well, hello everyone. I'm Kim Allen, and today our change maker is the hilarious Rollie Williams. He's a Brooklyn based but Colorado born comedian who has a master's in climate science and policy degree from Columbia University. Go Lions! He's the creator and host of a digital comedy series called Climate Town on YouTube, where he's amassed over 500,000 followers, 22 million views, and has a handful of awards. He is a recipient of the YLA Award for Walking Softer, and apparently a huge fan of billiards, which I'm super curious about. And today he's with us. So, Raleigh, thank you so much for coming on board.
Oh, it's great to be here, Kim. Thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate coming on the pod.
Well, I mean, it's a big get for us, and I'm thrilled. It is. I mean, I've been so excited about it because we haven't met in person, and yet I'm a big fan, and I watch your stuff all the time, and I find it so wildly informative and such a great way to get what can be really dense information to people in an enjoyable way. And so I listen to you a ton. My 14-year-old daughter likes listening to you in the car as well.
Wow, that's a
Yeah,
demo I don't normally get. That's very good to hear.
really, what is your demo?
It sort of mirrors Reddit and a lot of YouTube. So it's like at least 60 to 70% male, 18 to 36 is the kind of main headwater. I don't get a lot of Gen Z, and I just always figure it's because like they can suss out that I'm a dork, but I don't know. I'm trying to break into that Gen Z market a little bit more
Well, let me
without
tell
having
you,
to pander.
you've got an in because
Great.
she appreciates it. It's great.
That's great to hear. And I also want to issue a tiny correction. I was not born in Colorado. I grew up in
Oh,
Colorado, but I was born in Chicago.
oh wait, this is even better. Look at you.
I know. Look how far I've come from the
Wait,
mean
so
streets of
then
Chicago.
this is a very challenging thing because of all the places knowing just those three places, I don't know, there's probably more, but how do you pick your teams?
Oh, that's a great question. I can't like get into the teamsmanship. The only team that I really give one honk about is Team United States in the big billiards competition. And
Nice.
we have been getting our asses handed to us every year for the past like 10 years. So I've been burned before, so I haven't picked a specific team from any of the states yet.
Who's really the top tier in the billiards? Who's really
Oh,
schooling?
Kim, you just opened up a horrible
Sorry.
Pandora's box. No, it's okay. So there's a couple schools of thought. Number one, the Philippines for their
Ooh.
population to talent ratio, unmatched. Philippines and China are two incredible they produce a lot of really incredible pool athletes. But I mean, and I'm using giant air quotes around athletes. Like this is I'm not saying that
I was
these
gonna
dudes
say, how
can
much
run
of
a
a sweat
marathon.
are we breaking? Like, how do we define?
You get it's more anxiety inducing than anything. But if you want to get like the world number one, you got to go to Germany. And there's this cat
Oh,
named Joshua Filler who's like 23, and he's sort of like, you will lose this game and you will lose every game against me, for I am the best pool player on the planet. Like that's kind of his vibe, and
so
he
German.
kicks ass. Yeah, he's German. He's the most German person I've ever met. Actually, second most German person to a different pool player from Germany named Torsten Homan, who's awesome.
Oh my gosh, this is
Sorry, yeah.
amazing.
That
This
was
is amazing.
that was the answer in the longest form. You're gonna cut all this out of the final
I
podcast, I
personally
hope, but
appreciate it though. No, I can appreciate it because it's something I don't know anything about,
sure.
and that's very safe. So you don't probably offend very many people by choosing to stick in the professional billiards lane of sports enthusiasm.
Although ironically, professional billiards or the billiards world it skews pretty conservative and
Love it.
pretty climate skeptical. So it's nice to like get a little bit of crossover and have them be like, "Oh, I never thought of that before. That's interesting," you know.
I do love that. That's really interesting because I mean that is a lot of our hope in Walking Softer as well is to meet people where they're at and be able to talk to people. This should be for everybody.
Hmm.
Are you able to strike up a conversation over a pool table, or do they razz you a little bit about what they might already know about you?
There's not a
How do you
massive
bridge
amount of
that?
crossover. Sorry, say that one more time.
Well, and how do you bridge that? Like, how do
Oh
you
yeah,
like tiptoe in, or do you just dive all the way into here's something that you might want to consider?
it's a sort of sometimes it's a never the twain shall meet kind of situation,
Hmm.
but it's also you just start to meet people on a human level instead of when like when somebody's seeing it on a screen or reading a headline and already mad about it. It's like that fight is a lot harder to fight when you're like friends with a person and you're playing a game of pool with them and they respect your pool game and you respect their pool game. You've already kind of built a bridge of solidarity, and so you can kind of be like, hey, did you know that like ExxonMobil knew about climate change in 1979? And it's just kind of an interesting starting place. And you don't often get that far, but sometimes you make a little bit of a
Sometimes you
difference.
can. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just watched your video on COP28,
Mm,
and I'm blown away, and this is what I ask you about too, because I'm blown away by your like how you put your product together, because it's
mm.
so well thought out. I assume you consume so many pieces of information. Your sources are so solid. The backup for everything is incredible. And I need to pay you a random compliment
Sure.
because, so my first degree was in broadcast journalism, and I had a little mini career as a television producer.
Oh, cool.
You are the best walk and talker I've ever seen. One of my biggest pet peeves in news or in anything is when they're walking and they're to nowhere and for no
Mm.
purpose. You are the king of the walk and talk.
Thank you very much. I honestly, this is like it's a process kind of thing. Like we don't use a teleprompter or anything. So I just have to like lock it in my head for a couple of minutes to get the like dialogue down right. And we just use an iPhone and a gimbal. So it's like a light crew, light thing, and we can just do it as many times as we want. I assume time is money in the news broadcast journalism industry, so you can't do like 9 takes to get the perfect like 2 minute rant in a walk and talk. But like just because we have a smaller crew and a smaller setup, it tends to be a little easier.
Yeah, well, you crush it. And
Thank
I
you
love
very
the
much.
blue tape on
Oh
the
yeah,
signature signature blue tape. But what
yeah.
is your process? How do you choose what you're going to talk about and where you get your sources, and then distilling what people go to get a master's degree in a brief video?
Sure, yeah. I think it kind of starts with the premise, and we're working on a couple of different premises at any given time. So right now we've been trying to crack a video about the insurance industry for a little
Hmm.
while. So we've been like I've talked to like 5 or 6 experts. Basically, it's like the first phase of it is like a go no go on a particular video. So
Hmm.
like, is there something here? So it's a team effort, right? So I have about 4 people that I'm working with total. Like, there is a group of 4 people. It's me, Nicole Conlon, Ben Bolt, and Matt Nelson. And the
Right.
4 of us, in any permutation of that group, will sit down and kind of pitch topics and think about different potential angles for videos, and like, oh, we want to do a video about eating meat. We want to do a video about water in the Western United States. And we want to do a video about insurance companies, like not insuring houses and then insuring fossil fuel operations and
Yeah.
infrastructure. And so we sort of have these topics swirling, and then everyone is reading as much as they can on all the topics, and then we're like calling experts in the topics, which is like what that's the nicest thing about having a little momentum on the channel, is that we can reach out to experts, and unless they're busy or like really truly don't want to talk to us, like they'll usually find an hour or half an
Oh,
hour
great.
to like drop in and say hi and help disabuse us of any misconceptions that we have on the topic, because we're researching, we're like going to all the usual suspects source wise, like all the big um what's media properties, I guess, like the Times, the Post, Wall Street Journal. Like we'll go through all the lying lamestream media. We'll look at like documentaries and like old source material, like PDFs, and we'll go back to the Prelinger archives and like pull from the Library of Congress and really try to get a picture of the story we're trying to tell. And once we think we've got something, we'll go to an expert and be like, "What about this?" And then
Hmm.
usually they'll say like, "This is pretty good. these two things, you're overweighting the importance of these things and
Mm.
underweighting the importance of these things that you've never heard of. So like research these things. So then we'll go like research that and we'll go to another expert. And this whole thing process of research could take, between 1 and 6 months on any given video. And like when I say 1 and 6 months, I'm not saying like 50 hours a week we're working on this one thing, but like, the process sort of takes a long time.
Well,
And
I
so
imagine
once we,
things just come to you all the time as well, because then you're also mixing in Lord of the Rings references or something else. Like
mm,
you have this great ability to mix media and times and genres to make it so compelling.
well, I think that, so that other section, thank you for bringing that up because like once we have a video and we make a script and then we add jokes to it, we have like, some idea for the media we're going to add in the edit, then we shoot it. And then when we edit it, that's where a lot of those little moments come in. Like sometimes we don't even think about, like there was a like a long Hulk Hogan runner in one of the videos that we only put in there because that month I was saying like brother a lot to people and just like for fun. And when we shot the video, I was just in a phase of saying like brother a lot. And so I said brother a couple times. And then while I was editing the video, it was like, this is not that funny. What if I add some more Hulk Hogan into this? And so Hulk Hogan made like a 10 appearances. And that
Oh
was
my
never in the original script, but it became like kind of one of the benchmark comedy tent poles of that episode.
God,
So I think
brilliant.
it's like it's kind of nice that it's like it's a living document every time the whole way through the process. And although it's like really labor intensive because I'm the one eventually like writing it and then saying the words and then editing it, the fact that I remember the writing process and the research process in the edit means that if I need a joke, I'll say, oh, I remember like there was a PDF from the research process that we didn't end up putting into the script, but it actually works here,
Hmm.
so I can drop that in. So it's all amorphous and deeply inefficient as a process. Is the is the long story.
It definitely comes off like a lot more than four people. That's for sure. It seems
Well,
like
thank you
again,
very
it
much.
feels very personal when with you on camera and the content feels like you know it inside and out. But yeah, I can only imagine to get to the final product, it definitely seems like a bigger undertaking. So congratulations, you're doing a great job.
Thank
Is
you.
there, can you tell me how you got started in both comedy? Like when did you know you were funny and this was a good platform for you and like to use it? And then also climate science.
Sure. Yeah. I started working on YouTube as a billiards influencer. So this is where that comes in. I have a whole
Mhm.
other YouTube channel that is me sort of breaking down important shots in the history of professional billiards, or going around to different billiards masters and just getting my ass kicked, and then like learning from it. Those are already on YouTube. I had already like kind of gotten into a little bit of a groove hosting and doing jokes and cutaways and that kind of thing. So I knew that was like kind of working for from the YouTube perspective. And then in New York, I was doing a live comedy show
Hmm.
from 2018 or maybe even 2017, all the way up until January of 2020 when everything shut down. And when my live show about climate change, about like a live comedy show about climate change called An Inconvenient Talk Show, when that
Okay.
shut down, I was like, oh, well, now I have all this time. Why don't
Hmm.
I start a new thing that is like a YouTube hosted YouTube series that uses like all the stuff from the live comedy show? So that was about, I think, August of 2020 was the first Climate Time video.
Wow, that's great.
Thank you.
But what spurred your interest in climate change?
Oh yeah. Honestly, it was that comedy show. So in like
Really?
2020, some like 2015 or something, this comedy theater said, "Hey, Raleigh, like we had somebody drop out. I had a comedy show running at a theater already about the Chilean mine collapse, which like
Hmm.
I know doesn't sound that funny. It was a funny show. It was a comedy, immersive theater show about the Chilean mine collapse, which like everyone remembers that as being like a horrible tragedy. They all lived. They saved all 33 miners. Like
Wait, but
no
what?
tragedy
Tell me about
occurred.
it. Still waiting to what is the punchline of the Chilean Minecraft?
Well, okay, so the Chilean mine collapse was back in 2010. So all those Chileans got caught in that mine in the Atacama
Oh,
Desert in Chile. It was a big, huge news story. But in
yeah.
my head, I thought then they made a movie about it
Yes.
called The 33, starring Antonio
Yeah.
Banderas, and it was so bad. The movie was so hokey and dumb that I thought, oh, this could be a comedy if they just put a couple of little spins on it.
Oh
And
my
so
God.
I and wrote this immersive show in this basement kind of mine like theater that had stone walls. I like made it like it was an all Latino cast, and you, the audience, came down into the mine and you put on a construction helmet,
Oh my gosh.
and we did a mine collapse. The lights cut off. Everyone
Oh
got a little
no.
flashlight, and you had to like go into different areas of the theater. It was like a really spooky little theater. We had like a smoke machine. It was really fun. So I had this show at this theater, and then they called me and they said, "Hey, we had somebody cancel. Do you have a second show, like a different thing you want to put up?" And I said, because whenever you get that offer, you say
Yeah.
yes, and then you
Yeah.
find the show. So I said yes, and then I was in a Barnes and Noble a couple days later, and I saw Al Gore's book, An Inconvenient Truth, the book, and I
Yeah.
thought, oh, it would be cool to do like a comedy show from the perspective of like a real road weary Al Gore, who's like, I called it, I told you this was gonna happen. And so that was that show, and so that show kind of grew and grew and grew, and so I went back to so that was a comedy show
Right.
first and foremost, almost exclusively a comedy show, and that grew into a talk show that like was still a comedy show but had experts on it, and so I went back to Colombia to make my comedy show better, and
Oh.
so that's how this happened.
Wow. That's fascinating.
Thank you.
I mean, it worked.
It's not over till it's over, but it seems to be it's got some legs at the moment, which feels good.
Did it surprise you what you learned?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's certainly the specifics. The comedy is all about specifics, I think. Like
Yeah.
for some reason, when you're telling a joke about like taking a road trip, it's always funnier when you say like we piled into my Toyota Corolla Sport than it is to say we piled into my car. And I don't really know why. I think it's like visual humor is really potent. So in that sense, like I knew the shape of the story of climate change and the climate crisis, but the specifics are where all the real meat is and like the interest lies. And so like basically everything I learned on that path was really surprising.
Well, now it also makes sense to me why you bump out with Al Gore on your show.
I
I
love Al Gore, man. I at some point I really want to meet that guy. I
I'm just gonna
really,
ask, have
really
you
want
met
to.
him?
What's that?
You haven't met him yet.
No, I would love to. I sort of want him to want to meet me. I think I've spent so much time like I don't know if I told you this. The Inconvenient Talk Show, I was in character as Al Gore the whole time.
I'm Al Gore. Sorry about that.
Oh my gosh.
So like I played Al Gore for 2 hours a night for 2 years on a monthly show. Not like I wasn't doing it every single day. So like I've spent a lot of time researching the guy, and like I think he's really interesting. But if I then seek him out, it feels a little stalkery. So I'm kind of like waiting for maybe I don't know, his like sixth assistant to be like, "Hey, Al Gore's going to be at this book signing. Do you want to come and meet him?" Like that's what I'm waiting for.
Oh, that would be a great moment.
It would be
That would be a
incredible.
great moment. That's got to be
Yeah,
like Dana Carvey meeting George Bush. Like that's the moment where the worlds collide. Let's hope it happens for you because I
fingers
think
crossed.
yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed, for sure. I wonder if you find this. I mean, I think the medium's incredibly powerful using comedy and YouTube and the online platform to educate people. I've learned a ton from you in that sense. Do you feel like this is a better way to combat climate anxiety, something that people really have, or optimism is a better route than pessimism? Like some in the field are doomsday, some in the field are bright siding it. How do you feel
Hmm.
like comedy is a translator for the issues?
I mean, I think comedy weirdly is pretty distinct from your take on something, like optimism versus pessimism. So I
Hmm.
think for my money, comedy is a medium through which I like to communicate. But as we all know, like you can communicate very devastating things comedically. Like you can, in fact, like it's actually really palatable to be like really depressed comics. Lenny Bruce, for instance, like
Yeah.
the things he was saying were very depressing and real downers. You didn't feel like they were downers, but like the actual like if you read it off of a piece of paper, it was like, oh, this is a depressing thing to talk
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
But it's a palatable medium to communicate through. And I think the like climate anxiety piece comes more from how much you personally are like able to feel like you're making an impact or making an effort or something. So I think climate anxiety, the most climate anxious people are people who are not like working in the field. They're not
Mm.
like working on it as
Mm.
a crisis. They're sort of like seeing it from afar and being like, looks bad. I don't feel good about this. But I think like no matter if that's how someone is feeling, if they like switch careers or do something in sustainability or like advocacy or policy or law or communication or whatever, or renewable energy, engineering, there's like a billion things you can do. Like the further you get into the problem, the less that climate anxiety manifests itself, because I think there's a sort of effervescing effect from
Mm.
working on it. Um, so yeah, so I think for me those two things are pretty separate. But like it's also the when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail problem. Like I moved to New York to learn comedy. Like I wanted to do
Mm.
improv and sketch, and I wanted to be like a really good comedian. And so like now everything that I do, it almost feels like, oh, it's not like done until it's a funny thing.
Mm.
And so that's where I'm coming from. I will blow 5 deadlines in a row if the video is not funny enough to put out.
Mm.
Even though it's the same information, it's just like not that funny. And so I'll like wait and edit and do some re-records or something. So like that's just how I prefer to communicate. But I think there are, even within the team itself, there are like pessimists and optimists, and we're
Mm.
all working on the same product. So it seems a little bit disconnected to me.
Do you feel like you're making a difference?
I'm certainly spending all my time on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, well, so we just had this live show in Denver, and uh, a number of people were like, we wrapped the show and it went really well, and like we had a great time. And then a couple people were like, "Oh, can we like grab a picture or something?" And this is not I'm new to this experience, so I was like, "Of course, what are you talking about? Yes, I'll 1,000 pictures. I'll do whatever you want." Um, and so I like walked off like just to stage right, and then a line of you know 70 people formed,
That's
and I was
awesome.
like, "Oh, this is too much. I don't know about this."
That's
And then
awesome.
a lot of people were just like, "Hey, I just want to let you know, like, I went into sustainable engineering because I saw like this video of yours," or like, "Hey, I
Oh,
quit
that's
my
great.
job." Yeah, it was so cool. It was like I was blown away to hear this, and so I think like I don't know if like Biden is watching any of the videos and like making a policy decision because of it. But it appears that people are like some of the videos that I've produced have been like a contributing factor in people deciding to pivot
Mm.
careers, and that's exactly what I want.
That's some change maker action right there. That is
Yeah.
nailed it. That's awesome. That's super important because there's no way to maybe measure that, but it doesn't, the impact is, I mean, it's literally immeasurable. That's a wonderful way to make a difference. And I
Thank
bet Biden's
you.
watching the videos. I'm sure they have.
Yeah.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure that they do. I'm sure they do. What would be what's your dream gig? What's your dream spot?
I've always wanted to do like this, but on a grander scale with so the the budget is like we take a subway everywhere. We like pop out and get like Chipotle for like on-set lunches or Chipotles. There's like a crew of three, sometimes two. Like
Yeah.
it's a real small squad. We were doing a lot of run and gun kinds of filming, and like I'm editing it, and it's like a small operation. I think the dream would be like a HBO kind of show version of this, where there's like a little bit more of a budget, and like somebody is on location saying like, "Hey, you forgot to say this line that's in the script, and it's actually really important that you say this because we need to cut on this to another thing." And like, there's just nobody like that on set right
Yeah.
now. So it would be cool to like have this be a TV show.
Gosh, that would be fantastic. I think it has good chance of happening for you, Raleigh.
Thank you.
I want to ask you, let me go to some of my notes. Oh, well, I mean, on the same sense of you obviously now have a great many fans and people that want to meet you. So sorry to go negative, but do you ever get hate mail?
Um, Not really.
Okay.
I think in order to get hate mail, somebody has to sit through an entire 30-minute video. And I like to think I've done enough due diligence in the research department, and I've run it by enough like really like much smarter than me experts that like in order to give me hate mail, they would have to do a lot more work than normal. And
Hmm.
also like I'm kind of a regular looking white dude. Like I'm a little bit of Teflon when it comes to hate mail. Like it's much easier to just be like, "Oh, I hate your beard," and screw it. I'll just go to a different person and like blast them. I'm not saying I'm not like un uncriticizable or anything by any means, but I just think it's like I'm producing really niche climate
Yeah.
policy content that's like pretty well researched, and it just like I don't know, it just takes a little bit more to produce hate mail, I think, for that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, you just take on some pretty big names. So I imagine some might find you threatening at some point to their agenda, but I'm glad to hear that you feel safe.
I mean, I feel fine. If at some point I like disappear, probably it was somebody that I was mentioning in a video, but like, we all die sometime. I don't know.
It's true. What did you say in this one video? You're like, it's a weird life purpose, but we all have a different or something. Like I can't
I
remember.
don't know.
You
Oh,
have
the
some
bees
great.
thing?
Yes.
Is it the bees thing? Maybe
Yes.
you got 40,000 bees?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, that's what I mean. My point is, I also like your approach to people want to know what can I do?
Mm.
What do you do once you have the information? And you give many options and ideas, and also just it seems like you give a lot of grace to you figure it out, see how this sits with you and how you want to move forward with it. Do you feel like if you had a magic wand, what you would have people do with the information that you give them?
Um, yeah, I guess it sort of depends on the efficacy of my magic wand. I think it's
Mhm.
like there's kind of a three-step process of like decarbonizing the grid, electrifying everything, densifying areas. There's like a number of different like things that would give us a really good shot at avoiding a 2-degree future. Um, in terms of like a sociological question, I think I would probably just have people. I think just getting really educated on that subject is really empowering. I
Yeah.
think yeah, I don't know what anyone out there is like. I don't know anyone's life besides like my own, and sometimes the people very, very close to me. So I don't want to prescribe something to people
Mm.
because I don't know whether that's going to land or not. But the more information people are able to take in, the more they're reading on the subject, the more connections I think they're going to make between like what they like to do and what they see as a problem. And I think just that it's like empowering yourself through knowledge is, I think, the thing I would encourage people to do.
Yeah, you can't go wrong there. And that's, you are, like you said, grinding it out. You're carrying a lot of the burden and the weight of putting a good product into the world. What keeps you motivated and inspires you to keep going?
It is, I gotta have a job. I have to have some kind of job. And it just happens I have a tough time in like the corporate environment. It's sometimes tough
Mm.
to like live in the bureaucracy that's often generated by that sort of scenario. And I tend to, um, I tend to not not last a long time at those places. And so it's nice to have a job where I get to research things and talk to smarter people and like write and edit. So
Yeah,
the job itself is what keeps me motivated.
that's a good one. That's a really good one. So, Raleigh, we know each other because you are a YLA recipient for Walking Softer. Can you tell us a little bit about what that means and what you think about the program?
Yeah, yeah. Young Leaders Award selected me as a member, which means I'm officially young. All right, so don't forget, I'm a young man now. No, it's like a group of like young, I myself excluded, young hip climate communicators and climate champions and people who are spending their lives trying to work on the climate crisis in some way. And every month we it comes with a hot cash prize, which I took and immediately just poured into the YouTube videos. So that was very thank you YLA for that. That was very very helpful. Um, and every month we get together as a cohort, and we either talk to each other about what we're up to and ways we can help each other, or there's like a guest speaker or something. So it's a little bit like being in a like a one very light load college class with
Hmm.
20 of your friends who are also climate oriented fellows.
Well, we're so glad you're part of it because you put it to good work.
Thank you.
Well done. Okay, you want to do some rapid fire? Can we do some
Oh
rapid?
yeah, I
Okay.
thought those were the rapid fire.
Oh, well, I mean,
I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
user's
No,
choice.
I was trying to be cocky about it, but no, like let her rip.
Easy breezy. Okay, what is your greatest climate fear?
I think it's that it'll just sort of meander in the direction that it's been going, where like nothing will get decided or done, and it'll just be a bunch of little piecemeal efforts at a time, and will sort of spiral into this kind of worse world in every way every year.
Yeah, that would be bad. Which living person do you most admire?
John Stewart, I think.
Nice.
I really like
That's
that guy.
it's a good one. In what place in nature are you happiest?
A place in nature.
Mhm.
There's a mountain in my hometown that I really like. That there's a specific peak that I like to walk up. So I think like kind of this top of this mountain that overlooks Denver. I really like that spot.
That's awesome. If you could change one thing, I think we kind of covered this, but if you could change one thing about the world, what would it be?
Um, that people were more interested in like doing tricks, doing cool tricks like flips and cartwheels and stuff.
Wait, that's amazing.
I
That's
just think it's like if we focused more on like doing backflips off of bridges into like the water below, I think that would be we'd have a happier society.
the world would be a better place. I love that. I'm going to add it to my New Year's resolution. Learn a new. It won't. I can do a backflip off of things, but I'll have to figure out.
Really? I think
Sure.
you're. It sounds like you're kind of ahead of the game if you can do a backflip already.
No, because then I'm not living up to your global dream. I have to learn a new trick.
When did you learn? You know, you like learned how to do a backflip?
Oh yeah, well I used to be a diver on the dive team. So you
Cool.
learn dives and then You get really fearless when you're young and out and traveling, and you just decide, should I do a backflip here? Should I do an inward here? Should I do a this here? And it's just a fun party trick.
Nice. Should I do a double twisting double off this
Yes,
bridge?
exactly. But maybe I could learn like a triple sow cow on an ice skating rink or something. Ice skating would be an interesting trick for
Yeah,
me, I think.
a nice rock hard surface is a lot safer than a pool.
For learning new
Did you ever
tricks.
dive at Casa Bonita?
I didn't. Oh, no, but I love that we have. I did not, but I know Casa Bonita.
Cool. I was on the swim team in high school, and all my friends from the dive team worked at Casa Bonita diving off of their waterfall. And if you're
Oh
listening
my.
to this and you're like, "What are you talking about?" There's a restaurant in Colorado in the Lakewood area that an episode of South Park about a very famous episode of South Park. But there's a giant 40-foot waterfall in the middle of the restaurant, and they do dive shows into a pool below. It's awesome.
It's pretty
Go
amazing.
check it out.
It is pretty amazing. Denver does have some pretty um, wacky interactive dining experiences now that I think about it. Like several other places just came to mind um, where we would go down a slide at one restaurant and they'd cut your tie off. I can't remember what that place was
Oh,
called, but they would cut
like
off your tie and they had
Fuddruckers or something?
no, is that, well, that's another one. And then that one Mexican restaurant that they just redid, huge. Um,
I don't know what that one is. Man,
I want
I gotta
to.
check out the Denver immersive
We gotta get on
cuisine scene.
we gotta get on the circuit. Okay, what do you most value in your friends? What kind of characteristic?
Um, Jeez. Vibes, I guess. They're cool. I like a friend who like, you know, is high energy, good momentum. You just like drop into a thing and you can, it's like I like a friend that's very caffeinated.
Hmm, loaded, ready to go.
Sure, yeah, yeah.
Who's the writer you most admire, or who are some of your favorite writers?
Um, I've been listening to a lot of James Baldwin lately.
Oh yeah,
Um,
brilliant.
and then who else? Who's real good? Oh, I like David Wallace Wells. I think he's got a real good
Hmm.
knack for the depressing. I think that's nice. Leah Stokes is great. Naomi Klein. Um, who the hell wrote Cadillac Desert?
Oh, I don't know.
Hang on, I'm
I'm writing
gonna
it
look it
down
up
though
real quick.
because
Mark
this is
Reisner.
a oh great. Okay, it's on my
Um,
list now.
yeah.
Cadillac Desert. Okay, Raleigh, what is your motto? Do you have a motto?
Oh, when I was a Boy Scout, I had a motto, and it was "Be prepared." Um, and that, you know what? I guess my motto is it's altered slightly from "Be prepared," and it's more like "Be right."
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think uh, part of what I like in a video that I'm watching of somebody else's is confidence that they've done their due diligence and that they're not like phoning something in and leading me astray.
Hmm.
And I think I want to try to emulate that in my the videos that I write and produce. So I think that's like it's you're better off being delaying the video and being late or not even making the video if it comes at the expense of like factual accuracy. So like always be factually accurate.
I love that. Strong integrity. We could use more of it in the world. That's
Well,
wonderful.
and it's self-serving too, because I don't want to like put out a bunch of crap that's wrong. I don't want anyone to like pull a clip of my video and be like, "Oh, you said this," and like I don't want that in the world. So,
Yeah, well, no, that's what I'm saying. I think that for anybody that hasn't seen your show, I couldn't recommend it more because it is so thorough and it is like drinking from a fire hose, but with ease. Like it's all something that you can process and it's a lot, but I've walked away from every single one of them feeling smarter and with my cheeks kind of hurting from smiling while doing it. So
Oh.
it's a perfect antidote to what can be an overwhelming industry and an overwhelming space of information. Because I think a lot of people don't know where to start. Where can I start understanding something, or how do I know that this is real, accurate information and not bought and paid for by something that could lead me astray? Because people don't want to look dumb. Nobody wants to look stupid, I don't think. Um,
No, I think that's totally right. And we know whether there's like a movement that's like moving away from the liberal elites or like overeducation or something, which I think is like kind of a dumb thought to be like, why would we want to not use the information we have? Um, but yeah, I think it's like it's just better to be right about stuff and to I mean it's fine to feel however you want to feel, but like policy decisions sort of need to be based in facts and stats,
yeah.
and that's where I find I just like want to do the extra hour or week or month of research before we put something out.
Well, we're grateful for it. I was going to ask you for any closing advice or wisdom, but now I'm hoping you'll do it as Al Gore.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to like think of a nice little Venn diagram center here. Um, I think it's important to know some history of Al Gore, but I think it'll come across in the thing. Um, my name is Al Gore, and I have been married to Tipper Gore for pert near 25 years, and we did get divorced after writing a book called Joined at the Heart or something like that, and then we got divorced. And the moral of that story is never be afraid to be wrong, but
Mm.
also uh, make corrective action when you are wrong. And I invented the internet, and I have not tried marijuana. I have never used it at any time. Now, Kim, I'm going to give you a tiny little like peek behind the curtain. If you were to look into that quote, he doesn't say I've never used it at any time. Period. He says I've never used it at any time since I've been in office. So the dude
Oh, that's the
smokes.
full quote?
The full quote is like he's basically saying he has not smoked. Like it was when pot was evil, and
Right.
he was trying to distance himself from actually having smoked his body weight in weed when he was in college. And so he was like kind of lying about it, but kind of telling the truth. And I just think that
Uh-huh.
quote is just such that like little kind of out of context line is so funny. And I've been waiting for somebody to be like, that's not the full line. Um, and that's like a little tiny Easter egg in the videos.
Oh, I love it because I was going to ask you if you believe him, but because I haven't heard the full quote, which is I'm sure how they intended it, that it would be cut down just so people would only hear that.
Well,
By
I
the way,
mean,
how do you know he
certainly.
smoked his body weight in
What's that?
marijuana?
What's that?
How do you know he did that?
Oh, I mean, he says it in the quote. He's like, I've never used it at any time since taking office. And I mean, like, if you had not done marijuana ever, you would say that.
That's a
And
good point.
also in his like a book, I can't remember what it was, but he like when he was a freshman in college, he was like a just a weed smoking pool playing burnout, and I just was like, you spent your freshman year at a pool hall? Like, we're gonna be friends, man.
That's so good. This is what I love about this is that we've covered billiards, climate issues, policy, Al Gore, smoking pot. It's really something for everyone.
I think so too. Yeah, it's like we're hitting all the demographics. We just got to give something to Gen Z, and then we've really got them.
Then we've got him. I
Yeah.
mean, I think we do. Well, I really appreciate you spending the time, Raleigh. I know you've got big names to go speak with and doing the circuit that you're on, but I really wish you all the best of success because You've got a very unique voice, a unique way of presenting information that I think is very much needed, and applaud you for being a quality, correct change maker that has integrity in your work. So thanks for the time.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna clip that last thing you just said and hook it to my veins because that was a very nice thing for you to say. I appreciate that.
Well, my gift to you, and it's true. I wouldn't say it isn't true. So thanks, Rollie.
Thank you.